A day of terror, the Fort Hood shooting. It was a day that would forever be etched into the memories of those who were there and those who heard about it. The events that unfolded on that fateful day would change the lives of many and leave a lasting impact on the entire nation. November 5th, 2009 started like any other day at Fort Hood, Texas. The sun rose over the sprawling military base, casting a warm glow over the soldiers and civilians who called it home. The air was filled with the sounds of morning routines, the clatter of breakfast trays, and the hum of conversations as people prepared for the day ahead. Soldiers and civilians went about their routines, unaware of the horror that awaited them. They attended briefings, completed paperwork, and trained for future deployments. The sense of normalcy was palpable, a stark contrast to the chaos that would soon erupt. Shortly after lunch, gunfire erupted at the Soldier Readiness Processing Center. This center, a hub of activity where soldiers prepared for deployment, suddenly became a scene of unimaginable violence. The sound of gunshots shattered the afternoon calm, sending shockwaves through the base. Chaos and panic ensued as a lone gunman opened fire on unsuspecting victims. People ran in all directions, seeking cover and trying to make sense of the unfolding nightmare. The once orderly environment was now a scene of utter confusion and terror. The air filled with the sounds of screams and gunshots. The rapid succession of gunfire echoed through the halls, mingling with the desperate cries of those trying to escape. It was a cacophony of fear and violence, a stark contrast to the morning's tranquility. People scrambled for cover, desperate to escape the hail of bullets. Some hid under desks, others barricaded themselves in rooms, and many simply ran, driven by sheer instinct to survive. The sense of vulnerability was overwhelming as the reality of the situation set in. For 13 terrifying minutes, the rampage continued, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable carnage. The once bustling center was now a war zone, littered with debris and the aftermath of violence. The silence that followed was deafening, a stark reminder of the lives lost and the trauma inflicted. When the smoke cleared, 13 people lay dead and over 30 were injured. The scale of the tragedy was immense and the impact on the community was profound. Emergency responders worked tirelessly to treat the wounded and secure the area. Their efforts are testament to their bravery and dedication. The shooter, quickly apprehended by civilian police officers, was identified as Major Nidal Hasan, an army psychiatrist stationed at the base. His actions shocked those who knew him, and the investigation that followed sought to uncover the motives behind his heinous act. The Fort Hood shooting, the deadliest mass shooting on a U.S. military installation, sent shockwaves across the nation. News of the attack spread rapidly, and the nation watched in horror as details emerged. The sense of security that many felt was shattered, replaced by a deep sense of vulnerability and grief. The attack raised troubling questions about security, extremism, and the potential for violence within the ranks. How could such an event occur on a military base, a place meant to be secure and protected? The incident sparked debates and discussions about the measures in place to prevent such tragedies and the need for vigilance in identifying potential threats. The nation mourned the loss of innocent lives. Candlelight vigils were held and memorial services took place as people came together to honor the victims and support the survivors. The outpouring of grief and solidarity was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of tragedy. The attack left an indelible mark on the Fort Hood community and the nation, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of hate and violence. The memories of that day, the lives lost, and the bravery shown would not be forgotten. The Fort Hood shooting served as a somber reminder of the need for unity, understanding, and the continuous effort to prevent such senseless acts of violence in the future. The shadow of tragedy, the immediate aftermath. The events that unfolded on that fateful day left an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of everyone who witnessed or heard about it. The sense of loss and grief was palpable as the nation collectively mourned the lives that were senselessly taken. The immediate aftermath of the Fort Hood shooting was a blur of activity. Chaos reigned as emergency vehicles with blaring sirens rushed to the scene, their lights cutting through the confusion. People ran in every direction, some in search of safety, others in desperate attempts to find their loved ones. The air was thick with panic and uncertainty. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, tending to the wounded and transporting them to nearby hospitals. Paramedics worked tirelessly, their hands steady despite the urgency of the situation. Stretchers were loaded into ambulances with practiced efficiency, each second critical in the race to save lives. The hospitals already prepared for emergencies were now the epicenters of hope and despair. Law enforcement officers secured the area, working tirelessly to piece together the events that had transpired. Caution tape fluttered in the wind, marking the boundaries of a scene that would be meticulously examined for clues. Investigators, with somber determination, began the painstaking process of reconstructing the timeline of the attack, each detail a piece of a tragic puzzle. The nation watched in horror as news of the shooting spread. Television screens across the country flashed with breaking news, the grim details unfolding in real time. People gathered in living rooms, offices, and public spaces, their faces etched with shock and disbelief. Conversations hushed as the gravity of the situation sank in, a collective sorrow binding strangers together. President Obama addressed the nation, expressing his condolences to the victims and their families. His words, measured and heartfelt, sought to provide solace in a time of profound grief. He spoke of the bravery of the first responders, the resilience of the community, and the need for unity in the face of such senseless violence. He ordered flags to be flown at half-staff and vowed a thorough investigation into the attack. The sight of flags lowered in mourning became a powerful symbol of national solidarity. Ceremonies were held, each one a poignant reminder of the lives lost and the collective resolve to seek justice and understanding. The FBI took the lead in the investigation, working closely with local and military authorities. Federal agents, with their expertise and resources, joined forces with local law enforcement to ensure a comprehensive and coordinated response. The collaboration underscored the seriousness of the incident and the commitment to uncovering the truth. The shooting sent shockwaves through the military community. Soldiers accustomed to facing danger on distant battlefields now grappled with the reality of violence within their own ranks. The bonds of camaraderie and brotherhood were tested as they sought to support one another through the emotional aftermath. Gatherings became spaces of shared grief and mutual comfort. Fort Hood, one of the largest military installations in the world, was placed on lockdown as a precaution. Security measures were heightened, with guards stationed at every entrance and soldiers patrolling the perimeter. The base, a symbol of strength and security, now stood as a fortress against an unseen threat, its gates closed to the outside world. The shooting left a community reeling, struggling to come to terms with the magnitude of the tragedy. Vigils were held where people gathered to light candles, lay flowers, and share their sorrow. The memorials became places of reflection and remembrance where the names of the fallen were spoken with reverence and tears. The attack forced the nation to confront uncomfortable questions about security, extremism, and the potential for violence within its own borders. Debates raged on news channels and in government meetings, as experts and officials sought to understand the motivations behind the attack and to prevent future tragedies. The discourse was intense, reflecting the deep-seated fears and concerns of a nation in mourning.